Would everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome to another Meet the Candidates night. My name is Tom Dunn. I'll be your moderator this evening. I'd like to thank Steve Baker for doing all the legwork to put this evening together. We have two people in the back who are our greeters and will be our runners. If you have questions that you would like the media to give to the candidates here, Dee Mahan and Marty Baker. Thank you very much for your help. We also have Troy Community Radio, WPTW, that are broadcasting this live, and Troy Community Television, which is videotaping this and will be run at a later time. Tonight's forum will consist of 2 contested races, 4 tax issues, and an explanation from the Board of Elections' new paper ballot system. The 2 contested races are for Wards 1 and 2 of Troy City Council. The 2 candidates for First Ward are Zachary Allen and J. Russell Wheeler. The 2 candidates for the Second Ward are Cynthia Schaefer and John Terwilliger. Here to discuss the tax issues are William Lutz on behalf of the Park Levy, Troy City Schools Superintendent Chris Piper to explain the Troy City Schools Levy, and Upper Valley Career Center Superintendent Nancy Luce to talk about the Career Center Levy. I will also provide some information on the Trafalgar referendum. So tonight's forum will be divided into 3 different sections. First, each candidate and levy representative will be given 2 minutes for opening statements. Candidates and representatives, you'll give your statement from the podium here. It'll be 2 minutes. It'll be 2 minutes. We'll make sure that we keep you strictly to the 2-minute system. Jack Hoster here will be holding up little signs for you to see how long you have. He's very diligent about that. And when your time is up, if you're not finished, I will rudely interrupt you so that everybody has the same opportunity to speak. After you all are given the opportunity for your opening statements, we have a media table that is here that includes Terry Lafferty from WPTW Radio, Scott Hornsberger from WTJN Radio, and Steve Baker, Northern Bureau of WHIO TV, who will be presenting questions for you. Audience members, if you would like to present a question on your sheet, you can write down the question, hold it up, and one of our runners will deliver it to the media table. We'll do our best to answer the questions that you submit. Candidates, you'll be given 60 seconds to answer the questions posed to you. And again, we'll hold you strictly to the time limit. Again, Mr. Hoekstra will be telling you how far you are into your program. And to keep the forum as fair as possible for the contested candidates, I will try to alternate who answers first. After the completion of the media portion of the evening, candidates will be given their closing statements from their seat, going in the reverse order from the opening statements. Candidates, you'll have 1 minute to give your closing statement, and you'll do it from your seat. And again, we will keep you strictly to your 60-second limit. The forum will not exceed 60 minutes. I will begin this evening's forum with a quick synopsis of the Trafalgar referendum, which will be on the ballot for unincorporated Concord Township. Voters in unincorporated Concord Township will again consider whether to uphold the rezoning of the 50-acre Trafalgar property from agriculture to residential use. This is the 19th time a referendum on the rezoning has been pursued since 1995. The 50 acres is located at 1619 Monroe Concord Road in the township's unincorporated area near Troy. A yes vote would support the rezoning. A no vote would overturn the county commission's action. Our first activity for this evening, Laura Bruns, the director of the Miami County Election Board, is here to explain the new paper ballot system.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me this evening. I have just a couple of things I wanted to tell everybody about tonight. Number one, I have an example of one of our new ballot scanners. As many of you are aware, we did get a brand new voting system here in Miami County. It is a paper-based ballot system. So when you go to the polls, or if you happen to go and vote early, you will receive a paper ballot. Everybody knows what to do with a paper ballot when you hand it to them. There's little ovals that you fill in. We did that in elementary school, right? You take it to a scanner like that, feed it through the green tray. The scanner reads the ballot right away, takes a digital image of the ballot, and deposits it into a ballot box. If you made an error, and like you put too many choices, it was a vote for one and you marked 2 people, it will warn you that you overvoted. So you have a chance to take your ballot back, get a new ballot, and correct it. It will also let you know if you voted too few times. If it's vote for 3 and you only voted for 2, it will let you know that you can vote for additional choices. You can get your ballot back, remark it, and put it back through the scanner. I also want to let you know about our early vote center. Because of the construction around the county courthouse where our office is located, we have opened an early vote center at the Hobart Center, which is located 510 West Water Street in Troy. So it's between the new hospital and the library. You can go there and cast your ballot early. We have 2 scanners set up there. We have booths, plenty of room for a lot of people to come in and vote. We have had maybe close to 1,000 people that have voted already for this election. So do feel free to come in and vote early. On election day, the polls are open again from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. I'm going to be here for a little while this evening. Feel free to come over after everybody's done with their presentations. You can try the ballot system, feed a ballot through, and see just exactly how it works. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions at that time as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now for the first candidate, Zachary Allen, for the 1st Ward, Troy City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Dunn. I see a lot of familiar faces out there today, but for those of you who don't know me, my name's Zachary Allen, running for 1st Ward City Council. I am born and raised Troy boy. I think I'm at least 4th generation. I graduated from Troy High School in 2002. And then after that, I went to Wright State, where I majored in financial services. I played on the golf team and was active in my campus ministry. One thing I knew when I graduated college is I was going to come straight back here and be a business owner. Didn't know exactly what, but I knew I was coming back. And that's kind of what I want to talk about this evening for my platform, is the fact that I distinctly remember hardly any of my classmates came back home to start their careers. And I think if we can keep track of that, find a way to get more young professionals back here at home, I think we're doing everything else right. I think we're going to have downtown continuing to get better. We're going to be developing the riverfront. We're going to be making sure that our schools are doing exactly what they need to be doing. Thanks, and I look forward to seeing you guys in November.
Mr. Wheeler.
Good evening. I'm running for Troy City Council to represent the 1st Ward. My goal is to be accessible and responsive to my constituents. I promise I will listen and respond to you. I've been a Troy citizen since 1973. My wife Kay and I raised 2 sons here. At my 34-year career in local business management equipped me to be a good listener and problem solver. Troy is a solid, growing community, but City Council has not always been responsive and transparent to Troy citizens. Change is good for any community, but it's not about what City Council wants, it's about what Trojans want. I will promote responsible use of our tax dollars. I will support projects that provide for a safe and healthy community. I support the police and fire departments and will support their work by providing what they need to assure their and our safety. I will be a champion for the people of Troy. I ask for your vote on November 5th. Thanks.
Our first candidate for 2nd Ward, Mrs. Schaefer.
Good evening. Thank you, Troy Leadership, for sponsoring this forum tonight. I'm Cynthia Schaefer, running for 2nd Ward. I believe in scarlet and gray. Born and raised in Troy, I'm a people person. Background, aerospace, private sector. I believe in professional work ethics, leadership, and common sense. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees and Capital Fundraiser co-chair for the new Miami Valley Veterans Museum and a member of the Miami County Food Insecurity Committee. My commitment to serve, inform, and to listen to 2nd Ward citizens, be accountable and present when a challenge arises, such as the bike and parking issue that occurred in 2nd Ward. To relieve 2nd Ward's food desert, encourage a cooperative, member-owned grocery to serve citizens located in Sherwood Center. Add downtown Thursday with a blue plate special. Construct a walk and bike bridge to connect 25A to Duke Park. The miniature golf proposed in Duke Park, move it to Miami Shores. 3 amenities, 1 location, all for all ages. Acquire land for schools, mandate rental properties and business to recycle. Recruit living wage jobs, provide affordable housing, and expand public transportation to meet future demands. I believe a downtown parking garage will not be an amenity for Troy citizens' tax dollars, nor taking out the dam, nor a permanent stage on Prouty Plaza. I believe water, revenue, amenity will be at a loss after investing millions of dollars into Treasure Island. Vote Schaefer on November 5th. Thank you.
Mr. Terwilliger.
Good evening. My name is John Terwilliger, and I am candidate for the 2nd Ward City of Troy Councilman's position. I'm married to my wife of Chris for 36 years. This is also a special day. It's her birthday. We have 2 adult sons, Matthew and Luke. They are both graduates of Troy High School and of the Ohio State University. My professional career was that of an educator. I was involved with education for 39 years. 33 of those years were here in Troy High School. I want to thank Leadership Troy for this platform and this opportunity to share different opinions. I myself am a graduate in 1997 of Leadership Troy. I currently have served 2 terms on council. The first term was that of an at-large council. Second was the current position of 2nd Ward chairman's committee member. These terms have given me, I think, a pretty solid concept or idea into the workings of council and also a basic approaches to how the city government works. The 2nd Ward basically covers an area which is our north boundaries development area. It then goes halfway to town. It then goes from west of the hospital, Kettering, to the 41 bridge. It rather is expansive. Points of emphasis. I would like to continue solid downtown development. The Sherwood Center needs to be developed with encouraging emphasis on a grocery facility to that side. Our infrastructure, economic growth, recreational development, and continued forms of community communication. Thank you.
Speaking on behalf of the City of Troy Park Levy is William Lutz.
Good evening. Thank you to Troy Leadership alumni for presenting this forum for us this evening. Thank you to the media panel for your questions. Thank you to the good residents who are here, and thank you to the good residents at home listening on the radio. My name is William Lutz, and I am asking for your support of issue 26, which is the Cities of Troy Park Levy. Our park levy is asking voters to approve a 1.2 mil levy for the next 10 years that will provide necessary improvements to Duke Park. These improvements include 5 new lighted baseball diamonds, 2 new T-ball diamonds, 3 new soccer fields, 2 new entrances to the park with 491 parking spaces, a new recreational grade miniature golf course, a new splash pad, a new concession and storage facilities. The proposed tax levy will cost the owner of a $100,000 house approximately $39.60 per year. We believe that this initiative is the right initiative, and this is the right time to adopt this initiative to help our children have new recreational opportunities, as well as older residents to have recreational opportunities as well. I look forward to your questions this evening, and again, thank you for being here.
Now speaking on behalf of the Troy City Schools Operating Levy is Superintendent Chris Piper.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming out and joining us tonight. I'm speaking about the renewal levy that we have on the ballot this November. This issue was first passed in 1990. It is a 5.9 mil operations levy, and it has been renewed 6 times since. We're simply asking that it be renewed once again. This renewal levy is not in any way affiliated with the proposed bond issue in March and will not be used towards new school buildings. This levy generates just over $3 million annually for the district, and those dollars go a long way. The dollars currently collected will continue to support operating expenses such as teacher salaries, student programs, utilities, etc. The cost for the homeowner is $123.55 per year for every $100,000 of home value. And I know that everyone recently received home value increases recently. I did too. I want to let you know that this levy, even though there was a home value increase for many of us, this levy will not increase cost. It will remain flat. It does not increase funding to the school when property values go up. So this would be no new taxes. We believe in fiscal responsibility at Troy City Schools. It's one of our 5 parts of our strategic plan. We take it very seriously, and I think we have a lot of great things happening in our schools right now. So please vote yes so we can continue that good work. Thank you.
Now on behalf of the Upper Valley Career Center, Superintendent Nancy Luce.
It's hard to be short. Thank you. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Upper Valley Career Center's 1.5 mil operating levy. Upper Valley has not asked for additional operating funds for 20 years, since 2000. The levy would cost voters an additional $4.38 per month per $100,000 of assessed home value. So why the request for additional funds? In the last 10 years, Upper Valley Career Center's main campus enrollment has increased by 25% and is now over 1,000 high school juniors and seniors. In our satellite programs housed in our associate schools, enrollment has increased 17% to over 3,400 students in grades 7 through 12. We are proud that we have accomplished this growth by eliminating low enrollment programs, reducing staff where possible, increasing class sizes, becoming more efficient, and asking everyone to do more with less, so that we could add new in-demand programs and serve these additional students. The demand for a trained workforce has been called a crisis and is cited as the #1 economic concern among employers, including those in our region. The state is our largest source of operating dollars, but state funding has not kept pace with this demand for skilled training. Passage of this levy would allow us to expand existing programs, add new in-demand options, and continue to ensure high-quality training that is provided with up-to-date equipment, technology, and materials in well-maintained facilities. Thank you.
Now we'll go to the question and answer segment of the program. Mr. Hornberger, you're first.
Thank you. This question is for the council candidates. Mr. Wheeler made a statement in his opening remarks that he doesn't feel that there's been enough transparency on city council. Mr. Wheeler, why do you feel that way? And the rest of the candidates, do you feel the same?
Mr. Wheeler, you're first.
Yes, I do feel very strongly about that. There have been actions taken by council that have not been explained clearly to the community. And I think that transparency needs to be there, along with responsiveness from council when questions are asked. I've been to council meetings, and it's futile to ask a question. I've noticed that the questions just don't get asked, don't get answered. So I feel very strongly about that.
Mr. Allen.
I think if you don't think there's transparency, then maybe you should try to meet up with your council person before the actual meeting. That way you can have some dialogue with them in a one-on-one manner.
Mr. Terwilliger.
There have been, at least during my tenure with it, spearheaded by, and I give them credit, our at-large council persons. They have started programs for the community to show up. There is one this coming Saturday morning, I believe. They had moderate, but the turnout has turned up. There are lines of communications, but one of the things I've found as a council person is if you have some idea as to what the questions are going to be, you are more apt to be able to respond to those questions than to just blindly talk on, to use, political terms that don't answer the question because of the complexities that may be involved in the answer. Some are just not yes, no.
Ms. Schaefer.
This is the basic reason why I'm running for city council for the third time. I've lived in my building since 2013. Not one council person has been over to visit with us about the bike situation. Now recently, the parking situation. I come home one day and they're trimming the trees for the Lincoln train, which is great, and would like to add a notification on that. I had to move, if I didn't have a car pass, I would have had to move my car 641 times. First is no parking, then no parking, then 2-hour parking, then free parking. And no one showed up in our neighborhood to let us know in advance so we could plan what's going on. So I do believe there is a transparency. And I have been going to city council, and my questions when I go there are answered. I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Next question.
This is from the audience concerning the council candidates. It says the 24 Ohio communities and over 600 nationwide have passed resolutions limiting the influence of big money and corporate power in politics. If elected, would you consider a local resolution limiting political spending?
Mr. Allen.
Yeah, I'd consider anything. I just would have to hear the facts and determine, what the best solution is for the situation.
Mr. Wheeler.
Yes, I would support that type of ordinance. I think big money is a problem in all politics in this country, and I think it's something that could be addressed also by city council.
Ms. Schaefer.
Yes, I think it should be capped to a certain amount, and I'm not for the big capital, and we can see that who has ran in offices here in Troy from $50,000 to, I think the one fellow was $50,000 to $26. So I think there should be a cap. Thank you.
Mr. Terwilliger.
The issues of money being spent obviously are very powerful. At our level, I'm not certain that the influence of the big dollar is really there. We don't have as many issues as they do at the statewide level, but it is something you always have to be aware of, prudent of, and monitor.
Mr. Baker.
For City Council, based on your support for or against the park levy, convince me how I should vote in November.
Mr. Terwilliger.
I would be for it, and the biggest reason I'm for it is because we have a large variety of kids who could be well served by some of the infrastructure and development of additional programs. The quality of life factor that is involved in our community, mentioned earlier by Mr. Allen, of trying to retain and encourage young people to grow, that quality of life for young kids, family-friendly activities would be tremendous. Duke Park has outgrown itself. We have a lot of programs and very limited ways to gain access. The money that would be spent on it is relatively small in comparison to the amount of money that has already been wasted in some ways on our Troy Junior baseball programs in repair and repair.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Schaefer.
Yes, I'm going to vote for the park levy. I believe that the miniature golf should go with the driving range and the golf course, because you will have 3 different levels of ages going over there. So you could have a lot, that could be more revenue. And that's why I mentioned having a bridge from 25A into Duke Park, so if someone wanted to park down there in the old ball fields and hopefully not be flooded, then they could walk over there and wouldn't be into the traffic on Riverside on either direction. My only concern is the water park. I lost my service dog, and I wouldn't, if she was here today, I would not be allowing her to go into that water park. I'm also concerned with the security of children going over there by themselves when the baseball fields are going and soccer and everything else. But I am going to support the levy.
Thank you very much. Mr. Allen.
Yeah, I'm going to support the levy. I think it just comes down to a simple dollars and cents answer. It's $40 a year for the next 10 years for a $100,000 house. I think, our property values would increase by way more than that if we continue to do projects like this around the community.
Mr. Wheeler.
I voted against the levy, and the reason I did was because there's $5 million coming out of the city coffers. Is that correct? I believe it is. That could be used to build the baseball fields, and I understand the baseball fields are needed. I served as the president for 2 years of Troy Junior Baseball, and I walked in the flooded areas quite often. So I think that's important. I don't think the splash pad and the putter golf, there'll be a maintenance issue for the city that I don't think we need to fund. So I voted against it.
Next question.
Got me off guard. Mr. Piper, should the renewal and upcoming new facilities bond issue pass, do you anticipate the need to request any additional funds in the future?
Well, again, we have a renewal on the ballot this November, and the bond issue isn't on the ballot yet. We're shooting for March, so they're 2 separate issues. But I can't give you a definitive answer. I can tell you what I think, and I don't think that our operations costs will go up. I think that we'll increase our efficiencies. So I do expect to see some costs go down, but we're going to be able to reduce staffing with reducing our number of buildings from 7 to 4, and they'll be much more efficient buildings, so I think costs will come down.
Next question.
This is for Mr. Lutz. This comes from the audience who asks, who's paying for the advertising for the levy?
This is being supported by a group called Neighbors for Duke Park, and we are taking donations from average residents just like yourselves.
Next question.
For the council candidates, do you have a piece of advice for the new incoming mayor on what you would like to see her accomplish right out of the gate?
Mrs. Schaefer.
Oh, wow, I just talked to her. Well, I hope she does well. I'm looking for her to be the new mayor and the things that she's going to do. I think that probably the first one, and she's working on that right now, is more transparency between the city and the citizens of Troy. I think that's really her little scorecard is very nice. I also hope that she'll bring some vibrancy downtown and make it more, I don't want to say homey, but we need something downtown, and turn down those street lights so people come downtown. Since those lights went up, no one's downtown after 9 o'clock, because I used to walk it all the time. And I wish her well. She's a great person, and I know she'll do a good job.
Mr. Terwilliger.
Slow and steady. We are an outstanding community. We have tremendous assets. The speed, I don't think we need to jump in and try to change and invent a new wheel. It works fairly smoothly. There are modifications, and I feel quite confident Robin has the personal skills, the intermixing of skills, that this can be done.
Mr. Wheeler.
My hope is that the mayor will reintroduce the Checkbook Ohio program to council, and hopefully they'll approve it this time. That's what I talk about when I talk about transparency. It's a program that allows citizens to look on the internet and see what's being spent where. And I think that's what we need.
Mr. Allen.
I would say just to continue to be president of the community like you already are, and make sure you help the council make the best decisions possible.
Next.
This is for the council candidates. Council continues to approve downtown and park events, which include the sale of alcohol. Do you support the sale of alcohol on city property, and why?
Mr. Allen.
Yes, I do, because I believe it'll bring more people downtown, and it'll continue to, like I said earlier, bring young professionals back to the area.
Mr. Wheeler.
Sure. I like a beer every now and then, and I'd like to go downtown and enjoy a beer sometime, so I don't have any problem with that.
Mrs. Schaefer.
I agree. Having alcohol is a good thing, and if you don't overdo it. My thing is, I don't believe we can sell it for $6 right out of the bat. It needs to be like $3.50 and then move up. I noticed that the first time we had it down there, it was $6, so that's 2 for 1 at $12. And when you can go into any of the restaurants, so I think we need to go a little lower and then bite them in the you-know-where, in the next year. Thank you.
Mr. Terwilliger.
Again, I think overall the concept of festival downtown alcohol is a good element. It ties in well with the festive attitude. I am a little concerned at some point, though, that this would apply to everything, and I don't think it can or should apply to everything, and I wouldn't want to see it encouraged on Sunday activities.
Next question.
This is for the candidates for City Council. If elected, would you support a city initiative to provide low-interest home loans for first-time homeowners to establish themselves in the city of Troy and become fully vested members of the community?
Mr. Terwilliger.
Again, that's a fine line. I think the city works in economic development in regards to economic of entrepreneur businessship. I'm not certain that we should venture real far into the world of housing. There's just a lot of different directions to which that could be a trap. It's not our money. That's kind of up to the investor, I think.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Well, I have a different outlook. If I didn't have a loan term house, I wouldn't have had a home for my daughter and I, and it worked out for me, quite frankly. I was able to stay in my home and have her go to Carroll High School and be able to afford her a better education so she could go to St. gosh, I forgot where she went. Anyway, down in Cincinnati, St. Mary's. And I believe that we can handle that. That's what we need here. We're divided. We either have the $1.5 million condos next door to me or low. And I think that we can move some of these people out of Hallinan Park, which just gets to my heart to go out there and see that and get rid of it and give it another option to move up. Everybody deserves to move up the ladder. Thank you.
Mr. Wheeler.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea, but I don't know what the mechanics would be involved in something like that. I would like to see more investment in our community regarding small business. Heron's Market's going to be a big addition to the downtown. And I live in the Northeast Historical District as opposed to the Southwest Historical District. And we don't have a grocery out there, so I plan on visiting Connor to get some of my supplies.
Mr. Allen.
Yeah, I actually agree with my opponent on this one. I think it should be kept to small business owners when we help out with loans. I think we learned in 2008 that if people get loans when maybe they're not ready, that bad things can happen.
Mr. Baker.
I would like to hear from the other three council members on the open checkbook. How would you vote?
Mr. Terwilliger.
The open checkbook, I think in theory, is a good concept in relationship to the ability to see, but also there is creative accounting. There are line items. You may look in a checkbook at the final line, but in the process, you may not know that part of that line came through federal grants, state grants, city monies that were available. It may say 3,000, but it might actually only be 15, and that other 15 came from someplace else. It may actually be efficient. It just may not quite look like you want it to.
Mrs. Schaefer.
I agree to open checkbook, and again, it's called transparency. Thank you.
Mr. Allen.
I'm not versed on that topic, so I can't really say for sure, but I would definitely take a look at the issue if I knew more about it.
Next question.
Mrs. Oops.
Turns.
Came out of order.
That's all right. Okay. Dr. Nancy Luce, you've been awfully quiet over there, and I apologize. I would like to ask you to convince this audience and our listening audience on WTJN and WPTW why should they vote for the levy for the Upper Valley Career Center. What's going to happen if it doesn't pass?
Well, Upper Valley Career Center has a long history of being exceedingly frugal. And so we have certainly been able to expand, grow our student population, grow our programs by cutting on one side and then adding on the other. And that philosophy won't change. It's been in place for 45 years. What we are looking at, though, is that there is a high demand for more programs, and we need to be able to have additional funds that will allow us to create the facilities, hire the staff, add the programs that then will allow more students to take advantage of career and technical or skill-based training, both as high school and as adult students.
Also, Dr. Luce, for the listening audience, could you explain just how wide an area the school serves?
Upper Valley Career Center covers, it's probably easier to talk in terms of school districts. It covers all of Shelby County school districts, and then also in Miami County, Troy, Piqua, Newton, Covington, and Bradford.
Dr. Luce, any juniors and senior students at the district being turned away due to class restraints or lack of available space currently?
When we open for our enrollment for the following year, which occurs in December, typically within a few hours, many of our programs, if not all, are filled. So there is a high need. We create waiting lists. We do what we can to take more students, accommodate more students, and then we're also working with our associate schools to add programs there so that we can extend the different options that students have.
Let's go back to the council candidates. Mr. Allen made a remark in his opening statement that he would like to find a way to keep young professionals in Troy. A lot of these high school kids graduate, they go to college, they don't come back. Mr. Allen, I would like to hear your plan on how you can keep young professionals or college grads to come back to Troy. And I'd like to know if the rest of the council members, if you have a plan and if you agree with Mr. Allen. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, what we just talked about with making sure that the schools are able to provide ways for us to get the kids qualified to come back and have jobs here. Bringing the hospital in is a great example of new jobs. I think of like One Call Now, for example. That was a great example of how somebody in Troy started a business where there's plenty of amazing jobs to be had. We just need to have more of that and support it with an amazing community and things to do around it.
Mr. Wheeler.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, college students.
Okay, I got you.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it'd be wise to try to adopt some programs that would attract and keep high school kids and college students back in Troy. Both my sons moved out because the opportunities weren't here for them. And I'd like to see some development of energy, and this is kind of controversial, but I'd like to see some land acquired and have some solar arrays erected, much like our friends up in Pequot have done. I think it's a very wise use of resources.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Well, I agree to that because that was in my original speech tonight, to have investment in solar or wind farms around here. I believe I talked to some of the kids last year who graduated, who was sitting over on the wall at the courthouse, and I went over and talked to them to see what they were doing and why they were sitting there. They were sitting there because they were waiting for a prom party, or yes, it was a prom party. And they couldn't go into the bars, and they couldn't go anywhere, and they were trying to figure out what they were going to do. And they said that Troy didn't have opportunities here. And I said, well, if we brought jobs, future jobs, would you come home? We need nurses and doctors, and now we have catering, so there's no excuse for these kids not to come back. Several of them were going in the service, and then they were going on to college, who were planning to go back to Troy. If there were jobs and amenities that fit their age limit.
Mr. Terwilliger.
The key term goes, if there were jobs. If there were jobs is based on recruitment, development of talent, fairs, advertisings, going out to find out where the talent may be. If you talk to persons who do industry or management now, the biggest problem they have is they can't find people to operate those systems that they currently would like to and need to. It's a combination of economic development. It's a combination of education, developing the proper programs, and it's a situation where the city needs to develop the atmosphere, the infrastructure, the recreation, the quality of life. There's all kinds of those elements that entice and infect all of our decisions, whether we want to be part of a community.
Next question.
This is for the Parks Department. Does the City of Troy and the Parks Department have any current plans to improve the parks that are located around neighborhoods?
From what I understand, the question to that answer is yes, but I can't give you any definitive answers right now. I will tell you that council has been responsive to citizens' needs when issues come up. For example, we had a resident who lives in the eastern part of our neighborhood said, hey, I see children play basketball at Hurlinger Park at night and they're doing things behind trees that they shouldn't be doing. Can we gift them a portalette? And we were able to do that.
Next question.
For the parks, for Bill Lutz. After the last park levy included a $3 million worth of improvements to the golf course was defeated, council approved the golf course project anyway. Will this happen again with this new levy? Will the city find the necessary funds to go ahead with the project if it fails?
So when we talk about Operation Recreation 2020, which was the last levy, the administration was very clear. Regardless of how the levy was going to turn out, there needed to be something happening with the golf clubhouse, and a driving range was going to be added. The administration was clear on that. You're not hearing the same messages now. If this doesn't go through, nothing goes through.
This question is for the city council candidates. Let's talk downtown a little bit. Do you support a parking garage in the future? And if so, why? If not, why?
Mr. Terwilliger.
I'm a little bit reluctant on the parking garage. There's a number of questions that surface on that, like where? One of the things that we've encountered or I have heard is that there are some parking spots available, but people do not take advantage of them even though they may be designated for them because there's a closer spot to where they want to be. I'm not totally convinced that if there is a parking garage, it can be put in such a position that people will use it. I'm not certain people are willing to walk multiple blocks to get downtown. That location, that's the biggest problem with a parking garage is location, and then the fee to maintain it, sustain it, and build it.
Mrs. Schaefer.
I agree with Mr. T over here. I also agree about having the parking garage and the bathrooms and the stage. I would be for all that if we were making the square a walking square. I live across the street from the courthouse, so I know a lot about parking, at least in the last 6 months. No, I'm against having the parking garage. I agree that it's going to be expensive. I'm worried about how it's going to look. And I'm also the same way with the bathrooms downtown. Are they going to be nice, clean, or what? We really don't know. I don't think Troy's big enough to have a parking garage. And we're losing our essence of history downtown. And I want to keep that going as long as we can. I know we're growing, but I want to keep that going, the history of Troy downtown.
Mr. Wheeler.
Yeah, I do support the construction of a parking garage. The merchants take up a lot of parking spaces themselves, and it's difficult to find a parking space sometimes, particularly the way the courthouse is being worked on. I don't know how long that's going to go on, but something needs to be done there. It also can generate some revenue for the city as well.
Mr. Allen.
Yeah, I don't think we need to do that yet. My office is downtown, and I think our dollars could be used elsewhere. We can still try to continue to get more businesses downtown and maybe just work on the efficiency of the traffic.
This is for all three of the issues on the ballot. With three different issues on the ballot, wouldn't it be easier to pass all three if the Duke Park levy was reduced to a lower level and come back later to add other additional amenities to the park?
Mr. Lutz?
When the Duke Park levy was originally constructed, we knew it was going to take $9 million to do the parking improvements, the entrance enhancements, and also the ball diamonds, which was the critical part. And I fought for the splash pad and the miniature golf course, which was going to add $3 million to that. It's a $12 million project. And when you back out the numbers, it's 1.2 mils. It's 1.2 mils. It's $39.60 a year. I don't think we could have gone any lower to get all of the things that are going to be important for our community moving forward.
Dr. Luce?
Well, given the broad area that we cover, there are a lot of competing choices that voters need to make both in Miami and Shelby County. I think that each of the issues really needs to be looked at for its own merits. And in our case, we feel we bring value to the community, and we hope that the citizens of Troy, Miami County, and all of Shelby County will choose to also support that as well. But I don't think it's really one or the other.
Mr. Piper?
Well, the good news for us is that we're not asking for additional money. Ours is just a renewal, so ours won't increase taxes. In terms of the other two issues, I think it's important for voters to take a look at the issue, take a look at their community, ask what's important. Both the park system and Upper Valley are great partners for our school district and a part of our community, so it's an important consideration for voters to look at.
This next question is historically the last question that we always ask at this forum, and that would be, how much are you spending on your campaigns, and where is the funding coming from?
Mr. Wheeler?
$600, and it's coming out of my pocket.
Mr. Allen?
Take no donations.
Sorry. Mr. Allen?
I've yet to spend any money. I'm going to get some signs out of my own pocket.
Mrs. Schaefer?
I have $150, one from the Democrat ladies, and a private donor. Thank you, and I'm still using my signs the third time.
Mr. Terwilliger?
$291.86, and don't tell my wife.
Mr. Piper?
To date, we've spent $0 on the renewal campaign. We're reusing old signs. I'm not sure how long they've been used, but they look pretty old. We are thinking about doing a levy mailer. We haven't made the final decision on that. If we do, it's going to cost about $3,200 to send that out, which is significant. But our money comes from Citizens for Troy City Schools. There's some money there, about $5,000, I think, that came through donations from our administrators and some vending dollars that aren't taxpayer dollars.
Mr. Lutz?
We've spent about $1,100, and that's from the neighbors for Duke Park. These are residents just like yourselves throwing a few dollars in the kitty.
Dr. Luce?
Well, evidently, I'm the big spender, I guess, but we haven't been on the ballot for 20 years, and so we've been adding money to a levy account for 20 years, so we have not had to really do any fundraising. And at this point, we've spent, I think, about $25,000 to $28,000 for the two counties.
Okay, this concludes the question and answer portion of the program. Candidates, you'll give your closing comments from your seat. We'll go in reverse order. You have 60 seconds, and we'll begin with Dr. Luce from the Career Center.
The additional funds that would be generated by the 1.5 mil operating levy will enable Upper Valley Career Center to add programs and expand existing ones. Also, where necessary, we will plan to renovate space to make it more usable for the various skill training that we are adding. We will need to purchase new technology, equipment, and materials, and in some cases, add staff. in order to increase the student access to in-demand training that is so necessary today. In addition, we will be devoting dollars to safety and security upgrades because those are always high priorities. The passage of this levy has implications for the training and expansion of our local workforce. Companies rely on skilled employees in order to meet existing demands and also take advantage of opportunities to expand. The number one concern, as I've said, of our area employers is having a trained workforce. Upper Valley Career Center has a proven track record of providing high-quality, skilled training to both high school and adults. We appreciate your support.
Mr. Piper.
Just a reminder that this levy is a renewal. It's been in effect since 1990, so it will not increase taxes, even with higher property values. In my time at Troy City Schools, this is year 2, I have learned that the district has been a great fiscal steward of taxpayer dollars. Our treasurer sitting in the back there in the back of the room has won several awards and is excitingly waiting for the auditors to come back this year and get the same result. So we take care of taxpayer dollars and try to spend those dollars wisely. If you want to find out more information, we provide lots of opportunities for that. We have a lot of information coming out through social media on our website. If there's ever a question anyone has about how we spend our dollars, please ask. We have monthly coffee chats, community meetings, or just give us a call. But this is a low-cost levy with a big impact on the students. Please vote yes.
Mr. Lutz.
When I think about issue 26, I think about that little boy who wants to be the next Bryce Harper. I think about that girl that wants to be the next Alex Morgan. I think about a family that might have children with mobility issues that need a place to cool off on a hot summer day. I think about grandparents looking for something to do with their grandkids on a Friday night. We live in a community where we stand on the shoulders of giants. We've all drank water from a well we didn't dig. We've been taught in a school that we didn't have to build. When we die, we will be buried in a hole that we will not have to dig. We have an opportunity to do something real, tangible, and meaningful for future generations of Trojans. Please join me in voting for issue 26 on November 5th. Thank you.
Okay, now our city council candidates, beginning with 2nd Ward, Mr. Terwilliger.
Thank you for this opportunity to share and to express and exchange our ideas. Troy is a great community. We can be very proud to be Trojans. We possess assets that other people and other communities only wish they had. Let us continue to protect what we have and work to improve in areas that we need. Let's continue to be forward-looking and forward-thinking concerning economic development, recreation, which leads to quality of life, infrastructure, continued improved citizen communication, and fiscal responsibility. My name is John Terwilliger, and I would appreciate it very much if you would vote for me for 2nd Ward Councilman.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Thank you. Continue building a legacy for Troy's future generations while guarding our past. Thank you to our responders for putting their lives on the line. And remember, MVM quarter auction on November 23rd. See you there. I'm Cynthia Schaefer. It would be my honor to serve you and your family and all the Troy communities. I ask for your vote. Vote Schaefer on November 5th. Thank you.
Our first candidate for the 1st Ward, Mr. Wheeler.
I'd like to thank the panel of questioners and our timekeeper for not dinging me this time. I'd also like to thank Tom for his excellent job of moderating this event. I'd like to thank Leadership Troy alumni as well. I am one and have not been very active in Leadership Troy alumni, and perhaps I should be. But Steve, you do a lot of work on this, and I appreciate that. I'm looking forward to serving as a council person for the 1st Ward. I want to be responsive. You'll hear from me. if you ask me a question, you'll get an answer. We may not always agree, but I will hear you, and I will try to respond in a way that will make you proud that you elected me. So I hope to have your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Mr. Allen.
First off, I just want to say I had a lot of fun tonight. Thanks for coming out. I am really looking forward to getting to work, and I have an open door policy at my office, so if anybody wants to come talk, I'm right above Troy Sports Center and right below the Chamber of Commerce. Thanks.
This concludes tonight's forum. Thank you, candidates, for being here this evening. Thank you for audience for being so well behaved. Please remember to vote on November 5th. Thank you very much. You're dismissed.